Could I ask you a couple of questions about what's going on in the world right now?
Careful what you wish for.
Yeah, no, it's fine, mate. Any questions can be asked. I mean, what's your thoughts about what's going on over in Palestine right now?
My thoughts about what's going on over in Palestine? Minimal, because what's going on over there is absolutely horrific.
I completely agree.
So, yeah, I don't know where to begin with it. I mean, initially, I suppose my first thoughts are that what people allow is what will continue. And that's been evidenced in this country for a long time now. Things progressively get worse. People progressively find convenient totems or demographics to target with their misdirected anger, basically.
Yeah, do you think there's anything we can do as people to bring it to a stop, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first thing is that if you're an apologist for genocide, then you're compliant towards it. I remember when I was a little boy hearing about, in the little bit of school that I attended, that the horrors of Nazi Germany and the things that they were doing to people. And the one thing that struck me as a child was, how could people comply with that? I had a similar feeling myself 4 years ago in this country and the world in general with regards to the pandemic and the lockdown, which had very little basis in actual medical science. And I think the main reason for the lockdowns were to stop people communicating, because communication is very important. So there's often a conspiracy of silence, you know, like a couple of boxers in an 8th round, and one of them's clearly got the upper hand, and one of them knows they've won and the other one knows they're not going to win, but the one that knows that they're winning doesn't want to get chinned, so they end up hugging for 4 or 5 rounds. And there's far too many people hugging Zionist warmongers and genocidal maniacs, hugging them with plausible deniability, hugging them with excuses, hugging them with secondary or tertiary issues. So yes, definitely hostages being taken is a terrible thing. Yes, definitely God knows how many Ukrainians and Russians dying is a terrible thing. But if people aren't going to take the time to inform and educate themselves on the background of and the causality, the factors in the equation that have precipitated these events, then they're not entitled to an opinion. And if you think you're entitled to an opinion, I would advise you to exercise your entitlement to educate yourself and to identify the factors in the equation. So there isn't a West Bank of Israel any more than there's a Northern Ireland. The whole reason there's not a British football team is because if there was, the English, Welsh and Scottish FAs would be kicked out of FIFA, because Northern Ireland is not internationally recognised because it is an illegally occupied territory. And the same applies with Gaza. With regards to what's my thoughts on that today, because I've got a lot of thoughts on this topic, but my thoughts on this today are that the visas, it's not good enough that in the past week starving, malnourished, critically ill children are being denied visas to be taken to the United States of America for medical treatment, despite the fact that most of the munitions and weapons that have been used against Palestinians are actually American in origin. That's not good enough. What they've done in the past few hours is they've actually banned the president of Palestine, or whatever title they use. It's all, titles. And they've banned any of the delegation to the UN from the Palestinian people appearing at United Nations in America. It's pretty obvious why they've done this, at least to me. Probably not to the majority of people, which is why I mention it. This is because there are major nation states such as France, who are leaders on the world stage, or one of many, and they've signalled their intention to recognise the Palestinian state. The reason that America have barred these visas, quite obviously, I don't know, but it's 2 + 2 = 4, and they don't want to create the scenario whereby Palestine can be recognised as a state. At the same time as they're talking about trying to get the United Nations Security Council to go in and aid NATO in their war against Russia, they're also trying to say that despite Ukraine having an president, who is not actually legally the president of Ukraine.
Comedian, ain't
He's a comedian, and so is Benjamin Netanyahu, whose first name is actually not even that, and his second name is Polish. If you look at the background sort of factors of the equation of these matters, then you'll recognise that they're self-evident. And I was at the first march against the Palestinian attack. I was at the second march, and the reason I didn't go along after the second march was I saw a lot of pigment-titled people creating divisions based upon race, and it has absolutely nothing to do with it. It's nothing to do with it. These imaginary lines are drawn up by inbred products of nepotism, and I don't care if you're a yellow peasant or a brown peasant or a pink peasant. You should be lucky that you're not treated the same as animals, because in their conveniently interpreted, bastardized pluckings of scripture, and certainly the their idea is that they're the chosen children of God, and everybody else should be lucky that we're living in their world. And this is how you can begin to understand the horrific treatment of the Palestinian people, because the people in Israel that are carrying this out have been bred into a society that is trained to see these people as nothing other than beneath them. And that's nothing to do with race whatsoever. It's everything to do with the class system. It's everything to do with entitlement. And it's everything to do with a material world that's devoid of any natural humanity. And most people that speak about human nature don't know what either of those two words mean. But if people can turn a blind eye to the children that are starving to death, being blown up in hospitals, to the doctors and the journalists that are being executed, to the homes in residential areas that are being given targeted airstrikes, like the woman who was a nurse in one of these hospitals, and she had her 7 children and her husband in their home in a residential area bombed, because this is how much they want to stop anyone, any of you, anybody from standing up and speaking the truth, because the truth is the only thing that can set people free. And what you all need to realise is this is training. This isn't something that happens to them and doesn't affect us. This is something that happens to them because they're relying on us doing nothing about it, and then by the time that it starts affecting us, it'll be too late, because they'll already know how to carry out a program successfully. And there's no lack of coincidence that a lot of the stratagems that have been used in Gaza over the last several decades are actually taken directly from the illegal occupation of Ulster and Northern Ireland. And this is why Britain used to be world leaders in military intelligence and close security. But if you actually look at the companies and who owns them, you'll find that in the last decade or so, Israel happens to have some of the most successful private security and private military companies, because they're the ones, like Britain had for many decades now, they've had for many decades, a targeted, controlled populace that they can work their tactics out on. There's a lot of people walk around the streets these days, think that they're proper raw, think they're proper hard, but they're a bunch of fussy-ass blood clots, because they haven't even got the spinal column to stand up and speak the truth. And if you allow something like that to persist and you silently turn a blind eye, don't think that you're any better than the Germans. You're worse, because Germans didn't have a template. And this is the most damning thing you can say about the majority of Israelis. Don't overlook the tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of Israeli nationals, and especially around the world, Hasidic and Orthodox Jews that have been protesting against Zionism and this subhuman behaviour. The simple truth of the matter is that these people are more likely to be the chosen children of the adversary than the chosen children of the Almighty. And if you are a child of Jah, Buddha, Allah, Krishna, whatever you want to call the Almighty, and you actually care about where your soul progresses from this incarnation, I suggest you stop turning a blind eye and realise that you are part of the problem or you're part of the solution.
Thank you very much, man. You're great. That was great. Thank you very much.